I grew up in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, which is a very small town. When I was 18, I went to California to go to school, and I graduated from college in 1968, June 1968. I really didn't want to go to the Army, so I started looking around different programs, and I got into the Navy on a 3x3 program. It's enlisted for 3 years, and then you'd be reserved for 3 years. After I went to boot camp, I got a week's leave, so I went back to Pennsylvania. And then while I was in Pennsylvania, a Marine showed up at our front door, and he had orders to me, and it said that I was going to TSN SGN. And I really didn't know where that was. So I went down to the Coast Guard station downtown, and he didn't know what it was. And he said, I'll try to find out. But then I went to a neighboring city in Butler, Pennsylvania, and the neighbor recruiter says, hey, that's Tonsinoot Air Base, Saigon. We landed at Tonsinoot. I didn't know where I was going. Nobody else knew. So I sat there at that airport, the walls with the bullet holes, and then the rats running at night, and 3 days sitting in the corner. Finally, one day, a sergeant came by and he says, I think we found out where you got to go. So they took me downtown Saigon, the Annapolis Hotel. Mama Son ran it, and it was a big blown out thing with sandbags in front. Another guy came over, a sergeant, and he says, I think we found out where you're going. You're going up to Ben Tui. So he took me up to Ben Tui, and then I caught my unit up there. I was a brown water sailor, up the Mekong River. Did that for about 8 months, was going on a mail run down at Mi Tai outside of Vung Tau, and we had a 6-ply that went over, and we had some barbed wire and concertina wire in there and stuff. My hand was sliced. It cut it from this side to this side, and so it was kind of floppy. So I ended up in Long Binh. I was lucky because there was a doctor there, Lieutenant Brown, and she was very good, and I think she's the one who saved that from being taken off. Because I didn't finish my tour, they sent me back to finish my tour, and that ended up being another tour. Finished my tour there, came back to the States, and was on board the USS Lexington for about a year and a half, and it was a training carrier for Vietnam pilots. And then I got out on an early out to go back to school. And while I was in school for about 2 months, I said, hey, I really like that reserve pay, because I really didn't have to go to the reserves and finish the 3 years, but I did. And then I just stayed in. One of the things I did, setting up the computerized inshore ship, it was a training facility for new recruits and stuff. My part was setting up a damage control unit. We would be able to control with valves in the computer flooding inside a compartment, and guys had to go in there and try to plug them with wooden plugs and rags and take their shirts off, anything they had, trying to stop this water. My last duty that I ever did was in pre-Desert Shield. Our unit got sent over to Jordan as a U.S. soccer team. We did depth soundings with sonobuoys with the SEALs. They went out and put sonobuoys out in the Red Sea, and we were trying to get the depth of the water near what Aqaba called their Coast Guard station. My wife, she was pregnant, and she was worried because we were only supposed to be there for a short time, and then we ended up being there for over 30 days. My wife, when I got home after that, when she says, well, Bill, she says, I think you're too old to play John Wayne, so I think it's time to leave. So I did retire. Worked a little bit in California and retired up to Sisters, Oregon here. The real heroes, there were 59,000 names on the wall. And they didn't come back. I do know there's still POW-MIAs there. We don't know how many. They were estimated 1,700, but there's probably more than that. A lot of people came back wounded, so that's always on my mind. But we're still doing it, aren't we?